and I'm Esther Githoyot. It's Friday, September 2nd. This is Africa 54.
Fighting has erupted again around the borders of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, shattering a ceasefire declared in March. We'll explain why the ceasefire has collapsed and what prospects there are for peace talks. In an exclusive interview with VOA, Nigerian presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, discusses how he is countering the APC and the PDP. And in our entertainment segment, more highlights from five-time Grammy Award winner Ladysmith Black Mambazo's Washington, D.C. concert.
Fighting is again raging around the borders of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, shattering a ceasefire declared in March. Both sides blame each other for restarting the war, which originally ignited in November 2020 when Tigrayan forces seized military bases across their region. Henry Wilkins has more from Addis Ababa.
So yesterday there were reports that Eritrea has now joined the fighting on the side of the Ethiopian federal government against the TPLF. We're now looking at a conflict which is taking place on multiple fronts. It's escalated very quickly since fighting restarted on Wednesday last week, bringing to an end a 5-month ceasefire where many people had hoped that there was going to be peace talks. That now looks extremely unlikely. Within Tigray itself, humanitarian organizations had said that parts of the region are likely in a state of famine. The UN has now stopped any humanitarian aid from entering Tigray because of the fighting, which is no doubt going to exacerbate the humanitarian situation inside Tigray, which is already desperate. Both sides have blamed each other for restarting the fighting. It's not yet clear who actually fired the first shots. This is Henry Wilkins for VOA News in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
For more on this renewed fighting, I'm joined live via Skype from Washington by Salem Solomon, lead editor of VOA's real-time news desk. Salem, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me.
You know, Salem, you've been following this story, and it hasn't been very clear yet as to what triggered this new offensive. What do you know?
Thanks so much again. If you look at allegations coming out of Ethiopia from warring sides, Getachew Reda, the spokesperson for the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, said on Twitter that Ethiopia's forces have joined with forces from neighboring Eritrea. He said they have launched, and I quote him here, launched massive 4-pronged offensive on September 1st in the area of northeastern Tigray. Residents near the town of Kobo, when the fighting started a week ago, in the Mara region bordering in Tigray, also said that they've been seeing movements of Ethiopian soldiers, Ethiopian defense forces, with their allies, including special forces from the Amara region and volunteer Fano militia in the past couple of days before the fight restarted. And so other fronts also include Ethiopia's government said on August 31st, fighting between Ethiopian troops and Tigrayan forces have also erupted along the border with Sudan. This news comes as TPLF seeks to break what it calls a siege imposed on the Tigray region to get access to Sudan.
Salem, previously Eritrean forces were fighting in this war. For a long time it wasn't clear how they got there until much later when Abiy said he was aware of it. What is Eritrea's forces involvement right now, and who invited Eritrean forces in Ethiopia?
That's actually a very good question, Esther, because throughout this conflict in Tigray, Eritrea's role has been underreported in terms of the war in Tigray. So just a couple of days ago, Eritrean Minister of Information Yamane Gebremeskal said TPLF has been audacious, and I quote him here, in admitting that they've been mulling military offenses against Eritrea. So this is the stance, Eritrea's stance against TPLF. This is a decade-long enmity against the TPLF and Eritrea. So Eritrea, neighboring Eritrea, has sided with the Ethiopian government. And to give your audience a perspective of who's against whom, you have Eritrean forces on one side, Ethiopian federal government forces on the other side, aligning with Eritrea, militia forces from the Amhara region, all against the TPLF. And this wouldn't be the first time Eritrea's involvement in the war in Tigray. Earlier, human rights groups have said that Eritrean forces are involved in what they call war crimes and have entered the Tigray region, attacking refugee camps that Eritrean refugees were seeking refuge in Tigray. And so this is the background in which the newest allegations of involvement of Eritrea is coming aboard.
Salem, thank you so much. Let's hope for a quick, peaceful resolution to this. Salem Solomon is the lead editor for VOA's Real-Time News Desk. Kenya's first female Chief Justice, Martha Koome, has adjourned Friday's presidential election petition hearings to allow judges to make a judgment on the petitions that is expected to be delivered Monday. Lawyers presented their arguments before the 7-judge panel. Judges asked the lawyers tough questions about the August 9th disputed presidential elections. Topping these election petitions is one filed by opposition politician Raila Odinga, who is seeking to overturn the Electoral Commission's declaration that Deputy President William Ruto won the election. Mohammed Yusuf reports from outside the Apex Court in Nairobi.
The legal battle at Kenya's Supreme Court between Raila Odinga and President-elect William Ruto has come to an end. Mr. Odinga is challenging the election results of last month, which made him lose the election by a small margin against Ruto. The petitioner, Odinga, demonstrated live to the court how there was irregularities and illegalities in the electoral process and submission of the results. Odinga, through his lawyers, claimed 11,000 polling station results were submitted from one location. The Electoral Commission has made rebuttal on some of those claims. Lawyers representing President-elect William Ruto also defended his win. The 7-judge bench retreats and will consider the evidence produced by Mr. Odinga, the Electoral Commission, IEBC, and the President-elect William Ruto. The judges are expected to give their ruling next week. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Nairobi.
Nairobi resident Gladys Makogu told the Associated Press she believed the court's final verdict will relieve every Kenyan. The Democratic Republic of Congo is suffering from armed conflicts that are now targeting civilians. In the past 2 weeks, Islamic militants from the Allied Democratic Forces have killed more than 40 civilians in North Kivu province, most of them women and children. Medical personnel reported that 76 civilians were also taken hostage by the Ugandan militia that has operated in Ituri region of Congo since the 1990s. For more on these attacks, I'm joined live via Skype by Ntal Alimasi, a governance and anti-corruption specialist. Mr. Alimasi, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you, Esther.
So what is being done to safeguard the welfare of civilians in Ituri?
That's the $1 million question. Because at this point, we know that the government of the DRC has called upon, has authorized the UPDF to come and fight the ADF on Congolese territory. But since a while, the Ugandan army has ceased giving updates as to what they are doing, how they are doing, what has been done with the rebels, and so on and so forth. And the FARDC, meaning the DRC army, have not been giving updates either. So people really don't know what's going on in this point. What I can tell you for sure is that for observers that we are, the DRC has made a big mistake actually, starting in November of last year, when the DRC allowed the Ugandan forces to come on its soil. Because at that point, you remember well, in November, that's when there were 3 bombings in Kampala. People at this point in the DRC believe that the ADF that is in the DRC or was in the DRC, has always been in DRC for predatory reasons, but by just trying to get minerals and timber, whatever they could put their hands on. But from the moment they allowed Uganda to come in, so they made themselves party to that.
Ntal, very quickly, what's the impact of this conflict on the civilian population?
It's very dire because, people are dying. There's no movement of people around anymore. I can see at the point where whenever there is some people coming from North Kivu, which is really very close to Ituri, going into the Ituri region, there's fighting. Of course, that goes with the occupation of the land that the ADF has done. So, and of course, the Congolese population is very, very upset about it. It's, calling on the government to show what the state of siege has produced so far. And I think it's having some great impact as to what people expect from the elections next year.
Right, Ntal, I think we'll have to leave it there, hope for peace and hope that President Tshisekedi and Museveni can have discussions on this. Ntal Alumasi is a governance and anti-corruption specialist and a native of DRC. Chadian authorities have arrested 84 young activists linked to an opposition party who called for protests against a national dialogue underway in the country. Police say a caravan of activists from the Transformers Party was roaming the streets of the capital, Jamena, to promote a rally planned for Saturday. The activists are part of a coalition bringing together the majority of opposition movements and civil society organizations which are boycotting an ongoing national dialogue launched in August by the transitional president and head of the ruling military general, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno. Nigerian presidential candidate of Labour Party Peter Obi is touring the United States ahead of the 2023 presidential election. Nigerians vote on February 25th to choose a new leader. Obi, a former state governor, is running against a former vice president Atiku Abubakar from the main opposition People's Democratic Party and Nigeria's current vice president Yemi Osinbajo from the ruling All People's Congress. VOA correspondent and host of Straight Talk Africa, Heidi Adams, caught up with Obi via Skype and asked him how he is countering the APC and the PDP, which are more established parties with veteran candidates.
We have moved from the once promising developing country to one now that is in a mess. We now have the highest number of people living in poverty in the world as a nation. We now have the highest out-of-school children in the world. We now have the highest infant mortality, even higher than India, that is 1.4 billion. We now have the highest drug prevalence among youths. We have the highest unemployment. It is the two parties you mentioned that brought us here. So election 2023 will not be about tribe. It will not be about religion. It will not be about entitlement. It will not be about connection or any form of those primordial biases. It will be about the character Nigerians can trust. It will be about competency. It will be about capacity and commitment to start turning around the Nigerian situation.
Nigeria has long battled with corruption and impunity among its security agencies. This has hampered the country's ability to effectively crack down on insurgent groups like Boko Haram. Obi told VOA the best way to fight corruption among Nigeria's security agencies is to hold the country's top leadership accountable.
It's not only within the security agencies. It's all over the place. So you have to tackle it simultaneously. If the leadership, the politicians are not corrupt, the security agencies won't be. So what we need is to start the process of cleaning up the entire system of corruption. And I said, cleaning up or reversing the corruption, again, can be dealt with decisively if the leader is not himself corrupt, members of his family and those around him are not. You reduce it by 70%. Because you'll be able, when you lead transparently, others will follow. And corruption must now be dealt with in Nigeria. It's been too long where we're preaching it, where we're talking about it, without dealing with it decisively.
On his U.S. tour, Obi is also visiting Atlanta and New York City. The United Nations Chiefs of Police Summit kicked off in New York this week, bringing together senior government and police officials to deliberate on the contribution of the UN police to sustainable peace and development. Speaking to journalists in New York, Violet Nasambu Lusala, the police commissioner of the UN Interim Security Force for ABA, highlighted the significant strides regarding gender parity responsiveness in her forces.
UNISFA has made significant strides in regarding gender parity responsiveness in the police component, and I'm proud to inform you that in a professional cadre, I have 75% of women, and then in IPOs, I have 36.7%.
Burkina Faso Chief Warrant Officer Alizeta Kabore Kinda is the recipient of the 2022 United Nations Woman Police Officer of the Year Award. A ceremony was held in New York this week, during which Officer Kinda received her award from UN Peacekeeping Chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix. Kinda serves as a gender focal point with the United Nations Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, where she supports the Malian security forces in the Menaka region to promote and improve understanding of gender, child protection, human rights, and civil protection issues. Kinda says she is very proud of her work.
I am happy and proud to stand before you to receive this exceptional award. I'm very grateful that my work in MINUSMA and in the Menaka region is valued and recognized. I am honored that my efforts have been rewarded beyond my expectations. I am pleased that despite the terrorist threats, the IEDs and rocket attacks, the efforts of my colleagues and myself are receiving accolades. More than anything, I am happy that I have invested in what I love most, contributing to women's capacity building.
Kinda's efforts have also focused on expanding the number of girls in schools and reducing early marriages. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, a special music encore from South Africa's Ladysmith Black Mambazo band. Stay with us.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
In other African news, 7 people were killed and 23 injured as tribal violence flared in Sudan's southern Blue Nile state just weeks after major clashes. The United Nations says world food prices have fallen for a 5th consecutive month, partly due to the resumption of grain exports from Ukraine. And U.S. President Joe Biden and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa are set to hold talks at the White House on September 16th to discuss trade, investment, climate, and energy. Senegal has arrested 3 healthcare workers over the death of a pregnant woman and her baby, according to a union representative. This is the latest in a string of maternal mortality tragedies. During a delivery in the rural southeastern town of Kedougou on Tuesday night, a woman and the baby she was carrying died. A health union representative told AFP on condition of anonymity because the legal case is ongoing. Africa-focused e-commerce business Jumia Technologies is planning to reach its customers in remote and rural areas by partnering with Zipline, a San Francisco-based drone delivery company. Clara Frank has more.
The venture is combining San Francisco-based Zipline's automated delivery system with Jumia's distribution network to deliver products such as electronics, cosmetics, and fashion to remote areas of Ghana. Zipline currently offers drone delivery of blood, vaccines, and other medical equipment. It's active in Ghana, Rwanda, Nigeria, and the United States, with its most recent foray into Japan. A Jumia spokesman says the partnership is part of a plan to reach a growing customer base in rural and remote areas, which make up about 27% of the company's deliveries. The spokesman said he could not immediately give financial details. Nevertheless, the loss-making company is hoping the initiative helps profits take off. In August, Jumia revealed it expects full-year losses before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization of between $200 million and $220 million. It did, however, say it was past peak losses. Jumia was the first Africa-focused tech startup to list on the New York Stock Exchange in 2019. It operates in 11 of the continent's countries and has a current market capitalization of $741 million, according to data from Refinitiv. In a statement, Jumia and Zipline says that after a successful pilot program and testing in Ghana a few months ago, they plan to expand into Ivory Coast and Nigeria, but gave no time frame. Clara Frank, VOA News, Washington.
In our entertainment report, the 5-time Grammy Award winning group Ladysmith Black Mambazo is currently on its U.S. tour. You may recall our report on the legendary a cappella group's concert and interview here in Washington recently with Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell from last Friday. Well, we didn't think we saw quite enough of the performance, so we're bringing you an encore today. Here is the recorded music from that concert.
Abafana benza bayadele abadlali kahle abafana benza ukhuza wenompempe bayadele abadlali kahle umaso singadlala kanje angeke kulunga angeke kulunga umasonke singadlala kanje angeke kulunga angeke kulunga abafana benza kodwa abafana benza bayadele abadlali kahle abafana benza ukhuza bayadele abadlali kahle umasonke singadlala kanje angeke kulunge angeke kulunge umasonke singadlala kanje angeke kulunge angeke kulunge awu bakhuzeni bo bayakanga awu bakhuzeni bayakanga awu bakhuzeni beseni bayakanga awu bakhuzeni bayayona yonke lento bazoyona yonke lento bayayona yonke lento bazoyona yonke lento bayayona yonke lento bazoyona yonke lento bakhuzeni bayakanga bakhuzeni bakhuzeni labo bantu bakhuzeni bakhipheleni ngaphandle bakhusheleni emnyango bakhipheleni ngaphandle bakhusheleni emnyango bakhipheleni ngaphandle bakhusheleni emnyango bakhuzeni bayakanga bakhuzeni bakhuzeni labo bantu bakhuzeni bayakanga awu bakhuzeni bo bakhuzeni awu bakhuzeni awu bakhuzeni awu bakhuzeni bakhipheleni ngaphandle bakhusheleni emnyango bakhipheleni ngaphandle bakhusheleni emnyango bakhuzeni labo bantu bakhuzeni bakhuzeni labo bantu bakhuzeni bakhuzeni labo bantu bakhuzeni bakhuzeni
And that's our show this Friday. We invite you to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.